G, recommended action, personnel matters. Number 1, I need a motion to approve Schedule 1, resignations, terminations, leaves of absence. Can I get a motion? Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 2, Schedule 2, appointments, tenure, salary changes. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Number 3, no changes to number 3? All right. We're going to move down to H, new business discussion items. Number 1, the first topic, review of NISBA 2016, proposed bylaw amendments and resolutions. Does anyone have a comment, question?
I have lots of comments.
Correct.
I understand, Mr. Farioli, you're attending this meeting. Have you had a chance to look at the resolutions that were presented and those that were estimated by NISBA? I actually wrote down a list of things that I actually had some questions on. The limiting tenure was resolution number 5. What were your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on limiting tenure. I'm fine with the tenure rules the way they are. I liked the tenure rules before they were changed by the state legislature last April. I'm not a big fan of proposed renewable tenure. I think that if everybody does their job, tenure is not an issue. It's protected right
So then you're voting
for due
against
process.
it? So you're voting against it?
Am I voting against it? I can vote whatever way the board would like to vote. That is my
Guys,
job.
can you turn your mics on because there's a loud noise back here. We can't hear you.
I will vote whatever direction the board would like to vote. That is my job as the representative of the voting committee. I'm not voting for myself.
So Andrea, how does that process work?
Well, if the board wants to make any proposed changes, then we have the, we have a form.
And with that form, I was looking at it, it looks like changing the wording on things.
You can amend it. It says move to resolution number to be amended. So you have to put in, and then you have to insert your wording, and or you can strike words.
Or you can strike the whole thing.
Just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts?
I mean, you don't have
Yeah,
to vote
would you
for
like-
it either.
Well, according to this, it looks like you would change the table, so in other words, you have the 5 years and it would be a revisited tenure. So it's a matter of, do you want to revisit the tenure after it's taken place, or just leave the tenure in place?
Proposed, yes.
Right, so I just want to know your thoughts on how
I
you...
gave you my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to go and visit the
You
tenure.
should support it.
But that's just my opinion, I'm not the majority.
So that's what I'm asking. Anybody else think we should support that, or? Renewable tenure. I mean, I guess, I don't know what the process, you know, I mean, I'm voting for the board, so.
My experience is that the majority of teachers keep working as hard as they were prior to getting tenure. That's my experience.
No, but this is not teachers, this is principals.
Same thing.
It's both, actually.
Teachers, it's both. Teachers and principals.
It's both.
Group setting.
So you for it or against it? So the board's against it, so then you'll have to vote no against that. This question I actually had for Monica. Can you just define to me the chronological age? And there's something on resolution number 7 that talks about children that are tested. It's chronological, and then versus development. So would you know what that actually means? More of a definition of the two words. I'm trying, because they're stating when they're
Actual age versus the developmental age.
so meaning.
I do want to review this, so I can speak about it, or chronological.
Yeah, because they're looking to change it, so they're talking about the 1% of children, and they're saying that that number is probably a little bit higher. So I know that resolution addresses that particular issue, when to test and when it's appropriate to test.
We do ultimately assess up to 1% of our.
We can hear you.
In special education, there are a certain amount of students that are alternatively assessed. That means they don't take the state tests, but there's a separate criteria and almost a data booklet that's created and submitted to the state that is based on their cognitive ability as well as a CSE meeting making a determination.
Right.
So this is person.
Yeah, I think they're looking to increase that 1%, and I think that they're saying that number's not adequate.
In some districts, they do need to pierce that 1%. In other districts, and really, I have to say, my experience is that some years the 1% is not an issue. Other years, you could go over 1%. We did not go over 1% last year.
And within the last couple of years, that something has it been faster in the last couple of years, or we've been pretty stable with 1%?
I can speak to next year right now, but I can get you more information.
On resolution number 8, I want to know, I guess it would be more of a question, Nick, that you would ask, is what is the formula that would determine the allotment?
Is the school lunch you're talking about?
No.
Sorry, number 8, you said?
Mhm.
Just refresh me.
This is to finance the employee benefits obligation, where they're trying to do like a reserve on that, and didn't exactly give a formula on it, or how long in advance, or how many years the projection is, so it was very vague.
It's not in the rationale, so I guess if we wanted to answer that question, we have to submit something, right?
I don't know how that works, but it just seemed very vague to me. So how does that work, Anthony?
I don't get the opportunity to question the, I went to the meeting last year, and I did not get the opportunity to question the resolutions, it is just voted on or not. Any submissions or any questions have to be submitted prior to, so that wouldn't be something that I would do, that would be something that as the board or you would have to do prior to the, I believe it's Monday's deadline. the
Right, so
19th.
so don't we submit that to you before Monday? Or you submit it to the...
It doesn't matter when this gets submitted to me as to what to vote on, because we don't vote till the October meeting. But if you wanted to submit a change, we would have to discuss it and submit that before Monday. That all gets taken care of here at the board, though, that has nothing to do with me.
Is
So
there
then-
no more discussion at those meetings? I remember they used to have, used to get up and have their point of view.
You can,
They used to argue across the floor.
you can propose a additional change at certain levels when the thing is proposed, but unfortunately you have to have it written and you have to have it laid out, and then you have to get a second from the room, and you have to then take a vote on the change, and then they have to compare that change to the original, and then it's decided on which of the changes taken into consideration, whether it's added to the original proposal, or if the original proposal is put to a vote, or the changed proposal is put to a vote. So there is a process that's in place, yes. But they're looking for these changes to get taken care of beforehand on the 19th. And that's not really a change that she was more of a question for clarification, so I don't think that's something that definitely wouldn't ask a question there for clarification. That's not the opportunity. The opportunity is to possibly present a change to the resolution, but you wouldn't ask a question.
Well, then it actually would be a change to the resolution, because they should create a formula in part of the resolution. How do you expect you to approve a resolution without a formula? They should
Very, very valid point.
They should
They're
implement a
talking
formula.
about other post-employee benefits. We have an actuary who prepares a report every year and updates it every other year. So it's every other year, it's a full report. And there is a number, and it's in our financial statements,
Yeah, but it
how
should
much
be-
that is.
But it should be stated in the resolution.
Well, they're not really setting a cap for it. The cap would be the amount of the total obligation. And they're authorizing here in this resolution for the money to come out of the reserve, which a lot of people feel would be a good move to move it out of there.
But it's, so then
It
who
would
sets
be
the
different, it
guidelines?
would be different for every district, how much the other post-employment benefits are. That would probably be something that auditors and other advisory people like the controller would come up with guidelines. And it would be based on what's reasonable based on the total obligation.
So
Not
not one
that
formula
particular
fits all.
district. No, it wouldn't have a lot to do with subjectivity based on what's reasonable.
Okay, so maybe that's why the formula wasn't in there.
Yeah, and it's a whole actuary report, it's a whole big process to even get in our particular district or any district's particular OPEB obligation.
So then maybe that wording should be put in there, used under the guidance of.
And it also depends how much people have in their e-law reserve, because that's where they're proposing that it be moved from,
Right, exactly.
which is also particular to school districts, particular school districts.
But don't we do a lot of this? We do this.
Well, there's not an allowable reserve currently for other post-employment benefits. There is a reserve for the EBLR. So that's what they're asking for, there to be another allowable reserve.
And Sharon, based on this language, do you think there'll be a prescribed formula, or will it be left up to the local school boards?
It'll be left open to what your particular obligation is per the actuary's report, what is deemed reasonable by the controller, by our auditors, by the accounting field.
So then maybe that word should be put in there, because it's just very vague. It's like, okay, well, it's gonna take your money, we're gonna, but they're not giving you.
They don't really do it for the EBLAR either.
Right.
It's based on calculations particular to each school district. So you really can't prescribe a formula, you can't dictate the whole actuarial report.
No, I understand that piece of it, but then maybe say under the guidance of.
Yeah.
That, maybe that word should be put in there, under the guidance of. It just seems a little bit vague, and I guess I was looking for
But those are all of the people who provide guidance, those are all of the experts, our legal counsel.
I get that, but as far as the resolution goes, maybe it should have been worded to reflect that.
Okay.
Not your fault, I'm just saying,
Oh, I know, no problem.
On resolution number 9, it talks about, by utilizing the technology available, school districts to provide students access to richer academic programs. This is referring to like online service. So if there's something that the school doesn't have, then there's another way of offering the child or the students through technology to have that, which I think was great. I'm in favor of that. Anybody else have any opinions on that?
I like that, I'm in favor of that.
Mr. Gable?
I'm not really sure what we're talking about. Are we talking about courses that we don't offer? Are kids gonna take
Well,
courses online?
it actually gave a reference, I think physics. If we didn't have an advanced placement physics teacher, the child or the students can actually have the opportunity to do an online. If we didn't have that, so I think that's great. So there is other things that our children want to do, and we have that online capability. Why not offer our students that service?
Right, well, that's a budgetary item, I think we had discussed that on it.
Well, it's a resolution that's being passed.
Right?
Or a resolution that's being proposed, I should say, not passed.
I think additional opportunity is certainly, beneficial to our kids. I don't know if Mr. Felicio would claim that that's his work.
Well, it depends. I guess if you have 7 kids that are interested, or 6 kids, I don't know, but a lot for, what's the, boundaries for a class. But if, say a small handful of kids, obviously we have a big class and you offer a teacher. But if you have a small handful of kids that want to pursue this, want to pursue that, 3 or 4 kids, makes sense to entertain them online.
I think that resolution is for some of the districts in New York State that are really far away from resources. So if you're looking at a district that's way up on the Canadian border that may not be able to find a physics teacher, it's more to allow a blended learning environment for kids who might want to take that physics class if they don't have the opportunity to have a physics teacher. So they do. They have there's quite a few BOCES actually that have courses. Mandarin is offered actually because it's very difficult to find a teacher of Chinese. So there are places that do that already. But I think it's really more along the lines of the districts that are smaller and don't have the kind of resources or the kind of manpower that.
Well, I'm thinking chemistry probably would have worked because there's only a handful of children that wanted to join. So chemistry would have been beneficial for us. So that's the first thing that popped into my head. A handful of kids that would have been able to have that opportunity. So in some ways it can apply to us.
Yeah.
Would I rather have a teacher? Absolutely.
Right.
But if you have 2 or 3 kids, why should they, not have this opportunity? Resolution 11, I think, would be more of a question towards you. Did you notice on there, is it the 6 cents versus 25 cents on the lunch reimbursement for, so obviously they said they haven't changed that in 40 years. So what are we reimbursed on, say, an average lunch?
No, I don't
No, I
recall
didn't.
the breakdown. But that is correct, that's 6 cents.
Okay.
Let me get you the exact numbers.
So then 25 cents is not, but they said they haven't changed it in 40 years, so 25 cents is not even reasonable either,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
So maybe that's a question you might want to have, Mr. Ferrioli, of increasing that 25 cents? Because,
Again, I can't ask questions at the meeting.
so then I guess that's a resolution that you don't.
Something you have to propose a change by the 19th with the board. I cannot ask questions at the meeting. Changes can be proposed after the initial you know, if it's wrote down, but that's not part of the process, asking questions, any clarification or questions that can be asked or proposed by the 19th of September.
Okay, so then if you wanted to change the 25 cents and increase that number, how would that work?
You have to write a change, fill out the form, and submit it to them by the 19th to increase that number from 25 cents
So
to.
then Mr. Ferrioli has to take all the board's suggestions and then compile something together and then,
No,
Or
it
that's
just has to be
that's
done now.
something.
It has to be done now.
so this has to be done now?
Yes,
That's right now. That's
must be done now so that it can be submitted on Monday. The board has to.
So do I send these questions to you via email?
No, we have to do it now.
No, it has to be
Right
done
now.
now.
All right, so did anybody write down any of the things I said?
No, it was the one that you
Board
just
has to
said.
agree as a whole whether to make an amendment.
Well, there was one that we said we agreed on.
Yes, we want to.
All right, so who's keeping a list of all the resolutions we're in favor of and not in favor
Well, I'm
of?
okay with that one because I was not in favor of that, so I didn't have to change mine.
All right, but there's a lot of resolutions here, so what are we
Rest of them were
doing?
just questions, we didn't change, make any changes.
Only if
This
it's
is the first one where
change.
we really want to make a submit a change. Possibly, I'll get to discuss whether they want to submit a change, or if we agree to submit a change.
Oh, they can
The
change
state's
something,
gonna do
Eileen?
it, why are you disagreeing? The state's gonna
I'll
reimburse.
disagree with that.
No, it's a public hearing. The state's gonna, the state, they're looking for the state to reimburse us 25 cents. So say yes, why would that change?
As opposed to 6 cents, and I'm like, why couldn't, if, you know, I'm looking for a little bit more money, why can't it be
They're
more
saying
than
they
25
reimburse
cents?
us 25 cents.
Everybody does realize that, I just want to make it clear
This
that
does, no, nothing revenue
These
is
are-
gonna go through.
you-
I mean, you say no,
these
you
are-
go back to the
right,
6%.
What we just said is 100% correct. These are guidelines that the NISBA board is looking for to try to make recommendations to the legislature and the government. None of these things are ever going to happen unless this is what they use as their lobbying technique to try to propose as the new session comes forward. That's all we are recommending, yes or no, as to how to guide NISBA to make their recommendations to the legislator and to the governor and to try and get some of these things in place.
99% of these things die right there on the floor.
This is true.
So as a board, do you try to support one resolution and go
Well,
forward it, or does it even matter?
You
can
vote on all of them.
You vote on
Everyone
all.
comes up for a vote in the
So then
meeting.
how does the
There is one
board,
meeting.
so then we have to go through each one of these and start voting? Well, if you vote yes or no to either one,
Today's
you
for changes and you have to do this.
Yeah, it's 6 cents.
You have an opportunity
So
to
we wanna- so I
guide
would say
Mr.
yes.
Ferrioli, whether or not to vote yea or nay.
Put your microphone on, please, Andy.
right, so that's what I'm saying.
The
So
next
then-
one, not tonight. Tonight's for changes.
Tonight's just for changes that
That's
the
the
whole
next
board
one.
wants to send to NISBA.
Tonight's just for changes, then we'll go with the yea or nays next time.
Number 11, I would say go for it. I mean, we're already getting 6 cents.
So she's saying go for it, she wants to increase it from 25 to more.
But
She's
you're saying
looking
we don't have that
for,
on
she's
the
looking
table.
for them to make the option that they propose to the state legislature to ask for more than 25 cents.
Right, because you haven't increased it in 40 years. I mean, if I say no, then I'll go back to 6 cents, which is stupid.
No,
but
you're
again,
going to 25.
I think at this point, you're getting 6 cents for 40 years, 25 cents would be a huge jump.
Of course, but it's not good enough.
Good enough.
Yeah, well, it's not good enough. Number 12.
It's not, you're right.
Yeah, number 12 talks about the industrial development agency. Now, would that apply to something like this casino that's being built? I know it's not industrial development, but it is something that heavily impacts the area and does have tax ramifications on the area. I don't think that resolution 12 speaks to that. It's just industrial areas. Am I correct in that?
I thought the same thing when you asked the question about the casino. Was one of the things that went through my head was, you know, would they be forced, the school district be forced to be notified that this was taking place, and would they have a say in it? I'm not sure if that's exactly what that says. There's a lot of what I thought was more legal jargon in there that I didn't quite, you know,
It just seems like it
I
only
don't know
takes
general municipal
industrial.
law, so it looks like they're trying to provide notice of any proposed tax exemptions. Well, if the casino is being offered a tax exemption, then this resolution, if it were passed, would give the school district a heads up that the casino, if it goes through, will be given a tax. I'm using the casino as an example, sorry, it's not in our district, but Hopog is dealing with the crisis of, in case anybody's unaware of the situation with the casino, and Ms. Panico might be able to share with you. If the casino is transferred from the hotel at some point to OTB, it would then be under state guidelines, they would get tax breaks that would take away from the Hopewell School District. So if something happens like that in our district, I think some of this law might protect the school districts from at least having notification. Whether or not it can prevent any of that, I'm unaware, but it looks like it would at least give the district some notification that what's happening.
Is it a good thing?
It seems like a good thing, and I don't see any negative in it. It's very possible,
No,
what Miles
it's
bringing
good.
up, we might want more protections, but right now we have none. So this seems like a good protection to put in place to start.
Yeah, I was looking for more, I was
Yeah.
looking for something like the casino.
Yeah, I agree.
The one thing, I'm not gonna go through all of them, the one thing is, that was really dear to me was resolution number 20, where it was the different pathways
Yes.
to graduation. The one thing I didn't understand is that the committee did not recommend this resolution due to concern that an emphasis on a return to the local diploma might be interpreted as organizational support for a lowering of the standards for students need to be successful in college and career. So I was actually very concerned by their rationale, is their explanation for that. So, seems like they didn't make this recommendation.
I agree with you. I think the recommendation should have been made. I think it's hogwash that they are using that as an excuse to not put it through. You know, they're claiming that obviously maybe they're dumbing down or we're allowing children to get away with it. I think there are children who need different pathways and that we should definitely explore different performance-based assessments in multiple pathways. I disagree with the fact that they are, you know, not going to recommend that for consideration by the floor.
So who is on the resolution committee? Who encompasses that committee to make this determination not to put this resolution forward? Because I have all the resolutions, this was the most important one to me.
Who is on the committee?
Well, how does the committee determine whether or not something shouldn't go forward? They actually,
Well, this
They're not
one, maybe it's a
recommending it.
BOCES thing too, isn't it? Don't we, we have the opportunity to send somebody? We did not, from the BOCES for the resolution? I know that thing is on there. So it's just, it's gotta not be straight from this, but because a lot of this is submitted by other school districts.
so we're actually not voting on something because this wasn't put forward. That's from my understanding this correctly.
True. Well, it looks like,
It looks like that goes with the prior one, doesn't it? That they're not supporting.
There's the two different ones though. It's almost, no, number 19 is doing the auditing cycle. This is something different, which I agree with the auditing cycle, but resolution 20.
Resolution 26 here, is not supporting, goes with that one.
Yeah, it goes with that one, and this
But
goes.
here, there's a strong agreement.
Yeah, right, resolution 20?
Right here, there's imperative that is.
No, it's under the, all of those from 19 on are all not recommended by the resolutions committee.
Oh, I see, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay, gotcha.
It's 20.
Yeah.
Now, if we vote as a board, the opportunity does arise to bring up proposed, you know, ones that they don't recommend, and we can vote as a board to push that forward, you know, and support or second Hewlett. And Hewlett-Woodbury, I'm sure will probably bring it back up when that time comes, and we can vote as a board. I would gladly stand, if everybody agrees, I feel this way, but I would gladly stand up and say, Connecticut School District, you know, supports that as a second, for sure. That's up to the board to decide that.
Yeah, but
We have that opportunity during the meeting, that's how
well,
it
that's
works.
where my confusion comes in, because if they're not recommending this resolution, then how is it even on this page? So is it put on the page to show what resolutions were offered and what were declined?
Yes,
and
correct.
what
They go
maybe
through every
presented?
resolution, whether they're recommended or not. Recommendation only means that NISBA is endorsing it, saying that they think, that their board of directors thinks it's a good idea. But we will go through it's a very long meeting, we go through every single one of those proposed budgets, and some of them take 2 minutes to propose and people vote, and some of them take 40 minutes to discuss and talk about, and this, that, and the other thing, and then the vote comes,
So this is on the table, even though
It's-
this was not recommended
yes.
by the resolutions committee?
Yes.
Okay.
What I have noticed, and I only went last year, obviously for the first time in attending, but I can tell you this, there were the ones that were not recommended, none of them got changed in the past.
None of them got changed.
None of the ones that were not recommended by NISBA got changed in the past. Many of them, out of the 20 or so that there were last year, I don't remember exactly, I want to say there was, could have been more, about 5 or 6 of them were brought back up by different groups, like the school district that proposed it, and then other people joined in and said, we think this is a good idea, and all of them were defeated. It seems like, from what I learned sitting in the room, that many of the changes and the people willing to change come from downstate and Long Island, and many of the people upstate are simply willing to follow what NISBA wants and will not vote against what NISBA suggests. So the ones that were scheduled to pass pretty much passed without any real problems. There's a few little changes that were made to a couple of those, but all the ones that were proposed, and many of them were from downstate and Long Island, were brought back up, and they were still defeated because the upstate people simply followed what NISBA recommended. And that's just my observations of sitting in the room last year for 4 hours or so.
All right, so this word, why would they use that word? Retain the unqualified right to direct the children's education. Parents, guardians, retain the unqualified. That word threw me off.
This is the 21, which is these parents and guardians' rights to say what they want in the school district. Disqualified parents and disqualified. I never problem with this either, but they're not recommended.
And I recommended 21.
They're not, anything after 19 is not recommended by the committee.
Okay.
They do it, put all the ones that are recommended in the front, and all the ones that are not recommended.
All right, I wasn't making a big deal, because I know anything after, but it didn't matter. Which is-
Anything
I
after
didn't like the
19 is
wording.
not recommended.
Gotcha, okay. So the one
Why they
that
use
you're-
that word, I don't know. That rationale is the explanation by the NISBA committee as to why they rejected it. So it's, it's not the resolution, that's their rationale as to why they did not support it. I shouldn't say rejected, it has not been rejected. It's still to go forward, but it's their rationale as to why they are not recommending it. They're not putting their support behind it.
Okay, so as a board, I think we can all agree about the different pathways though.
Yeah,
Mr. Grayson, your thoughts on that? Your high school, principal?
I agree 100%.
Okay, 'cause that's the only one that really needs something to me out of all these resolutions.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we could, I don't know, is there an option in there to resubmit another school district's word for word, or just changes? Resubmit for consideration, can we do that by the 19th? Can we basically take theirs and
Well, it's
resubmit it word
already
for
on
word?
here.
It's already on here, but
I don't think that that's really what it's
that's not an
saying.
option, I can only bring it up
What it
when
is
it's
that
talked
you
about.
have to vote for it when you go.
Yeah, I can also bring it up, when it's brought up, I can bring it up and support it as the, if everybody votes support it, I can throw the Connecticut School District support behind it as a, I don't know, but my question is, can we do that now? So that our support is added to when it gets printed, because the books will be reprinted and put out that day.
Well, yes, we can do that. We can amend and just say on resolution number 20. It doesn't really give us, we could just do a rationale and say that we support it.
Okay, well, we should do that
That's
then.
what you want to do.
We should do that then,
We should do
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Okay, so,
So who creates the rationale? As a board, we have to give our language.
Well, we're supporting the statement here, right?
that's all you have to do is
So we're we're in support of the statement, I'm assuming.
you're adding a comment. You're adding that you're seconding and you're
Yeah, we'd like to
supporting
say, if
this.
you notice, some of them here have a
So you
second
don't have
on
to
them.
give any supporting information, it's supporting.
No.
Some of them here have a second school district, that's, some of them have, BOCES, 5 BOCES, 6 BOCES is supporting it. So, I wouldn't see why we couldn't support it secondly.
Toward the spring of last year, SEPTA got together with administration and wrote a very strongly worded advocacy position for that very idea. So if I have permission from SEPTA to utilize that letter as part of the rationale, I can certainly give that to the board to use.
Or even a possible resubmission worded differently that fits all of what SEPTA came up with, rather than if this doesn't cover them.
Okay, I
You know,
would look
then
at
we can
those
kind of
two.
resubmit as then put together a better proposal once we have it in front of us.
Okay.
So Andrea, next week we vote yea or nay on the resolutions, and then we give you material for 20, right?
No.
Oh, Lynn's gonna put the-
I'll
we
put
haven't
together
done that
material for
Monday.
20
Oh,
for the
that's right.
rationale as to why we
She's
support
She's
it.
gonna use the
Yes.
SEPTA
Okay,
piece
okay.
to do that.
Mrs. Manzi, Mrs. Kennedy, and the SEPTA board worked very hard last year in crafting a very strongly worded advocacy position. So I will, I'll look at that and I'll bring that document together.
So the following meeting, we can go through the resolutions one by one, and the board can decide whether or not they want to support or not support them. And that's your guidance to Mr. Ferriero,
Okay.
okay? But this is just generally just any changes or amendments that we have to have done. This has to be done tonight. Okay?
Anyone else?
I have ones that, you know, I had a few questions myself regarding some of the ones Bob brought up, but also, number 2, talks about the healthcare insurance, and it talks about,
That's a bargaining tool, I
I
don't know
know.
why that would even be in there, so.
well, that's really my question, is they're looking, NISBA is looking to eliminate collective bargaining rights for teachers, which, you know, as a school board, if they could set a number, obviously a school board would have a much better idea of projecting what those numbers would be in costs for health insurance. I have a few concerns. One, I really don't think it's NISBA's right to take away collective bargaining from the school district or a bargaining unit. So I have an issue with that, you know, with number 2.
Well, that's why I was gonna vote no to that one, because I don't think they had any jurisdiction
Yeah.
to do that.
The other issue I have with it is if they did move forward, and it's very possible that it gets passed, my issue is with number 2, it says in there that they're proposing that it be a minimum of 15% for individual employees and 25% for families. Why is it different?
The family group,
Yeah, why is it different?
I can only tell you that.
No, I understand that they're different monies, but but wouldn't it make sense that an individual could afford more than a family who's trying to feed 4 mouths? You're trying to take more money out of a family. To me, it either should be the same or it should be nothing.
That's why I'm voting no.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not for it, but if I was for it, I don't think that the numbers should be different. The numbers are, you know, you're taking a family who's trying to feed 4 or 5 or 6 mouths and taking 25% from them, and that's another way of just splitting hairs with a bargaining unit too. That's not right.
15% of $15,000 as opposed to 15% of, say, $7,000 or $8,000 on a single plan. The numbers are skewed a little bit, but 15% of $15,000 or $16,000 is substantial.
Right, but they want to take more from.
Right,
They're
they
looking
want
at
more, right.
they're looking at, let's say, possibly taking 15% of $10,000 on an individual.
Right.
They want to then take 25% of $23,000 on a family.
Right.
That's absurd.
That's crazy.
So I don't agree with that. I know it would somewhat level the playing field for all districts having a one set thing, and I think that's what they're trying to go for. So from the district planning and from a money standpoint, I understand it, but I'm not in favor of it. And I don't like the fact that it's different for different groups. I think it's either the same or non-existent.
You know, actually, since we're still talking about this, resolution number 4, if adopted, the 7th grade class in September entering 9th grade in the 2018-19 school year would be required to pass Common Core Regents examination at the aspirational college and career readiness level. ELA at 75 and math at 80%. I wasn't really following any of that. Did you have a chance to look at that resolution? They're also talking about children, talking about the grades, I think 7th grade and forward. I think it's in 20.
This is what's recommended by the Regents Board.
2022.
And in 2022, the graduation
Right.
requirements will be higher.
Right.
What NISBA is recommending is that they reconsider that and they roll those requirements back and keep them at the same level they are now. That's what this resolution
Yeah,
is.
but they didn't decline it, they only gave a rationale. Why didn't they decline this?
No, the
Oh, wait,
resolution
wait a
is to
minute.
keep it as it is. The resolution is to move forward with the recommendation of keeping it as it is.
Okay.
It's not a recommendation to go forward with the process. The Regents Board has thought that this should be a good thing. The recommendation from NISBA is to keep it as is and not increase the requirements.
Okay,
That's what
I
this
just want to
says.
make sure that I read it correctly, so we're not increasing it, we're keeping it back where it
That's
was.
what this resolution says.
The only thing is proposed goals if reaffirm 65% as the passing score before anyone is adversely affected. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Anyone else?
Good job.
All right, we're gonna move on to I, recommended action, financial matters. I get a motion to approve items 2 through 6.
Motion.
Second. Anyone have any questions?
Where are we at?
Aye.
I, financial matters.
I'll book Sharon. That's when the order report comes in? Yeah, I'll book you then.
Yeah, hell, I don't have backup. You don't have backup on that. Oh, for Helen? Yeah.
I think it was on the, it was
attached.
It was
Yes.
on
See, I'm
the,
not here, well,
It's actually,
no,
yes,
it's still
yes.
in the thing.
computer working? Because the internet on the computer was working. I can still bring it up. Still bring it up. Still working.
Could, I wanted to, but I just.
No, we can move on, I'm okay.
Good?
I'm good. I'm
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to J, consent agenda. Items 2 through 6. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Get a second. Any questions? Did anyone get a chance to read number 6, the field trip request?
I did.
I know.
Did it say in there that it was, whether it was boys or girls? Couldn't find.
Oh, it's a girls.
Boys or girls.
This girls cross-country team traveled to Warwick, Rhode Island to complete the 34th annual Brown University Girls Cross-Country.
All right, any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to L, the reports. Number 1, Board of Education committees. Any committees happened yet? No committees? Okay. We're going to move on to Dr. Adams.
So I'm going to do a little bit, we have a bunch of reporting. We had an excellent superintendent's conference day to begin our school year. Our K through 5 teachers, who are our classroom teachers, had their first day of unpacking their new resources for our new Math and Focus program, which was done at 2 different buildings, and it was very well received. And as you heard earlier, the training will continue over the course of the next year and the next 2 years, actually. We also had put together by Ms. Santo multiple presentations that really looked at resources for our teachers and our paraprofessionals, as well as all our YFS workers, our guidance counselors, on addiction and what it does to the young brain. It was really well received. It was every time that we hear Dr. Dewey speak, he gives us more information, something new, and it's really just disconcerting the impact on the teenage brain of drug abuse. So I'm going to just let that lead right into last night. We had another Board of Trustees meeting for Connect What Cares, which is our community coalition. The goals that were decided upon last night were to create a healthy environment, engage our youth in healthy activities, drug awareness, education, and community resources, to facilitate communication between various community groups within the Connect What community, to create a healthy community environment for all who live in the Connect What community, and to eventually create a community resource center. It's a really earnest group of folks who are working really hard to bring all stakeholders together to the table. They will have a booth at Homecoming on September 24th with some brochures just describing the organization and what they want to do for our Connect What community. Some of the items on the table that they're talking about doing this year would be cancer screenings. There's a teen support group, a pilot that's going on right now over at the community library that the Connect What Cares is supporting. They're looking at doing a Connect What Day, which would be an entire event for the whole community on May 13th, which is actually on the calendar already, for us to do some kind of amazing bringing the community together event at the high school. And Connect What Cares will be a large supporter of that. They're also looking to put together a heart screening day. There was one done last year successfully at OBMS, and they're looking to do it at the high school to extend that range for other parents to let's have our cardiac
Linda, can you talk about that
screening.
a little bit? I was a little amazed. It was like about 90-something kids showed up and 20 were red flagged. I mean, I want that message to get out there. 20 were red flagged.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 congenital heart defects that have absolutely, they're asymptomatic. So healthy young people, just listening to their heart, you wouldn't necessarily know. Unfortunately, the school district has lost two 17-year-old males within the last 4 years to a congenital heart defect that went undiagnosed and undetected. So we've had both of those parents want to get back to the community and never let that happen to another family. So in memory of one of the young men last year, we had 96 folks show up, teenagers, from between, they wanted to do 6th grade to 10th grade or 11th grade. They would do an EKG, a 10-lead EKG, and if that got earmarked that there was something wrong on that, they would actually put you right over the child, right over into an echocardiogram. There were pediatric cardiologists there to help read those tests, and 20 were actually earmarked in red flag to have follow-ups on that. So Connect What Cares wants to expand that district-wide, and they will be holding an event probably the first weekend in March at the high school to do those kind of outreaches.
Yeah, I can't stress that enough. I mean, to me, that was alarming, those numbers.
Yeah.
I was expecting to hear about 4 kids, maybe 5. That was a lot when I heard 20. That was an eye-opener.
It was.
Wasn't the opposite that someone got hurt in the sports team in the last couple of years? Because they got hurt, the doctor, they found out there was something wrong with the child, and it actually saved his life, is that? Huh?
Football. Coaching. I should say that, sorry. What happened to a player on the JV team?
Yeah, that because he got hurt,
They diagnosed him.
they diagnosed him and they basically saved his life by over there.
Just wanted to let the community know that on or about September 14th, Inter-County Paving will commence road work on Betts Highway between 13th Avenue and Sunrise. They're going to be starting during the day and going on into nights. We just received word from the State Education Department that they have now required lead testing, which we were way ahead of and proactive with, and have remediated the majority of the sites that came up that were red flagged. They are not opened yet, again, because we retested them after, and we're awaiting those tests to make sure that those were completely remediated. If you got to see in Newsday, our Long Island girls are ranked #1 in volleyball ranking. They were a great picture. Mackenzie Cole and Nicole Migliosi are incredible at controlling the ball. They said the Thunderbirds are loaded. Big hitters Cassandra Patsos, Mackenzie Taylor, and Taylor Cole are offensive threats. Connect What should be considered the favorite in Suffolk. Mackenzie Cole was actually selected to be on the 24 roster of the USA practice team this summer. So she spent some time down in Florida and also in Puerto Rico working out with that team. So it's really exciting to be able to watch them this year. And hopefully we'll have a repeat. At Duffield, we have expanded our Leader in Me program. So it originated over at Fossey Elementary School and now has moved to the Duffield staff. And they're really excited to move forward with the initiative. So we have a pretty smooth opening. There's always a few bumps in the road, but very excited to have kids back.
Thank you. Dr. Adams, administration, any reports from anyone? All right.
I have a question.
Move on to the Board of Ed.
I represent RMS
The town is not willing to work with us from where I read on 7th Avenue, going into but they said no, they don't want to work with us, but they recommended that we do some sort of study or have someone come in and do a study, a circle. Where are we going with that? Are we doing that?
Immediately after I got that notification, I reached out to the district architect. I gave him some rough ideas as to the number of cars that go in and out of the building, number of buses, minibuses, as well as full-size buses. And he's going to come up with a couple of proposals. I'll present that to the board and we can decide where to go forward with that.
Is he the person to really look at that?
No, but he certainly works with traffic engineers through various functions. So he is in contact with those people. He's just gonna get very ballpark, numbers, very rough numbers, and then we'll make a decision.
Maybe you should go with the traffic study or not?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not something that was part of my budget this year, so it's not something I had any plans on doing. If it's a $5,000 study, it may be one conversation. If it's $35,000, it might be a totally different conversation. Yep.
Any other board members, any comments?
I had the opportunity to attend the new teacher orientation, which I thought went really well. We have a young group of teachers who look great, energetic, and are excited about joining the Connect Club, so that was a lot of fun to experience that. Obviously, I haven't been to a new teacher orientation in 17 years, so it was kind of cool to interact with them. I also had the opportunity to attend the superintendent's conference day and see the math programs which were rolled out, and that training looked like it was going well. Teachers were really receptive. I had the opportunity to also see Dr. Dewey's presentation at the high school in the afternoon, and that was great. So I think that Ms. Santo and Ms. Adams and Mr. Middleman and everybody else that was involved put together a great day for our teachers, and I think it went really well.
So what did you think of Dewey?
I saw Dewey's presentation at night, and I've seen it, and I saw Peter submit on that day as well, and I think that he brings a tremendous amount of information, and I think his brain development information that he provides is something that every adult that is willing to should hear.
So you don't feel it's for 6th graders, they don't need to hear that information?
I don't think that it should be mandated for 6th graders, no. I think it's a parent's decision. I've stated that before. I think that every parent, if we can offer it to any parent, which we did last year, we brought them in at night, we offered it to every parent, we made all calls. I would highly recommend that every parent come in and see it and then make a judgment for their own self.
Can we ask what that is?
I'm sorry?
Can we just ask what?
It's a drug information presentation about the effects of drug, alcohol abuse on the brain and what it does to the brain and all the different effects that it can have in the development of the brain. It was a tremendous, tremendous presentation. My personal opinion, and this was brought up at, I believe, the last meeting or the meeting before, when someone suggested that we make it a mandatory thing for our children entering middle school, was that it should be the parents' decision. And I will stand by that, no matter how much I get criticized. I'm a 6th grade teacher in another district, and I just feel that every 6th grader is at a different level, and that every parent should have the right to make that decision for their own 6th grader. I don't really feel that anyone up here has the right to mandate whether or not a 6th grader gets taught about drugs or alcohol. Because I can tell you right now, my 5th grader, who will be going into 6th grade next year, would have no idea what alcohol and drugs are all about. And that's just my kid. But, he knows they're bad because we've had that discussion at home. He knows they're not something that, is, good for people to use, and he knows that, in excess they can be harmful. Obviously, he knows that people do use them. He's obviously been to a party here or there where a person's had a glass of wine, and my kids are aware that it exists, but it's not something that they're aware that exists. Like, it's alcohol, I need to have it because it's going to do something to me. It's just another drink to them, and they're aware that it's an adult drink and that in excess it can do harm to adults. I feel like that's really at this point what my kids are ready for, and that's just me. That's my opinion. I just think that it's every parent's decision to make that choice. That's really all, I stated in the past, and what I'll continue to state from this point. I think it's a parental decision. But I think every parent should go see it. I don't think the kids, that's the parent's decision, but every parent should go see it because it's really, really informative. And it's a great presentation, and he brings tremendous knowledge even I didn't have. And I have a drug program in my classroom 5 weeks out of the school year that I've sat through and I've engaged in lessons, and he brought pieces to that I didn't know that I was able to share with the drug ed teacher, and then she decided whether she wanted to use them. She looked up his information. She then incorporated some of those things into her lesson, but that's a lesson that that she felt was age appropriate.
So you use like your 6th graders?
Can I piggyback
Me
on
personally,
that?
no, I don't. There's a special drug education teacher that comes in. She has a required curriculum.
Doesn't parents have to opt out of that?
Parents can say if they like, they can contact the principal and say they don't want their child to sit through it. We've never had it, but it's very, it's more about awareness. It's not specifics. It's more about, and they've changed it from, it used to be a specific drug thing to more of a behavioral type of character education incorporated with drugs at that level. choices, yeah, you know, things like that. That's really what it's about. So, I'm of the opinion that it's a parent's decision at that point. Parents know whether their kids are ready or not for it.
So Ms. Harris, are we considering on bringing this into the middle school and having the parents make that choice?
It's something we actually discussed at the coalition last night as a community resource. And it is something that we will be talking with our administrative team about because now all the administrators have seen it. Not all administrators had seen it before, not all of our teachers had seen it before. So now that everyone has seen it, we can have a real conversation about it, but everyone's aware of what
Can I piggyback on that, since I was the one that asked? Our kids, our 6th graders, have been over pot and smoke pot. It's a fact. I've seen it. I know it. And there are children that have been caught doing it. So I thought at the beginning of the year that parents, not the children, parents should come in with their children. It's a wonderful tape. It's educational. It's not frightening. It's not ugly. It's not nasty. And 6th graders, most of the majority, I can't speak for all, would understand it. And it's interesting. It is extremely interesting, done simply, but intelligently. And a 6th grader could understand it. Of course, an adult could understand it. Adults are just taken back because they don't understand. California kids hear, oh, everyone can smoke pot in California. Oh, they can buy it in Colorado. It's not bad. I don't care what their parents say. It's not bad because they're hearing other states can buy it. But when you go sit down and find out what it really does to an immature brain, and it's permanent damage. Now, maybe not a lot of damage, but there's permanent damage. And that 6th grade parent, a 6th grade parent, really should come and I'd really recommend bringing their children because their children will get enough of an idea of how important it is. Then a parent can say, see, this is what's going to happen to the brain. And it's done beautifully, and everyone in this room, 5th grader, 4th grader, everyone should see it. And a 6th grader should see it, a 7th grader should see it. They haven't seen it in 6th grade because it teaches you actually what really does happen. And none of you know because you never saw it, so you really don't know that a young brain is permanently damaged. That's why I think it's important.
Any other comments from anyone? I would like to make a comment, just a personal comment. It's nice to see a lot of new faces here tonight. It's great. Hopefully you keep going. Recently on Facebook, there's a couple of evil people that are making accusations and allegations about other people, but me in general. So I just want to clear a couple of things up. I'm 43 years old. I've never been ever called a bully in my life. I've never been a bully in my life. So there's certain people that for some reason they're going to call me a bully. At every board meeting, I can't sit still. I get up and I walk around. That's not me being disrespectful. That's me having a hyper issue. So it never means to be disrespectful when I stand up and I walk around. And I'm only saying this tonight because I know a lot of people are watching on video. Some of you have never been to a meeting before, so you don't know what I'm talking about. All I ask is that, this is my 2nd year now on this board, and when I wanted to be on this board of education, it was for all the positive reasons, and that continues to be. The negative people that are out there, I just hope that people stand up to those people. Again, be an upstander, don't be a bystander. And I welcome anyone out there. If you have a question about anything, if you question anything, any stance I take, please call me up. My cell phone number is out there. I'll answer the phone and I will talk with you. I'll meet with you anywhere, discuss any issue. Because I want Connecticut to improve. I want Connecticut to go in the right direction. So when people talk negatively, tell them, stop talking negative, go to the person. There's not one person up here that you can't get in touch with, sit down and have a normal adult conversation. So that's all I ask. Those of you that are watching on video, those of you that are here, please continue to come. Great issues were brought up tonight, all right? Positive, let's be positive and do the right thing. That's all I ask, so thank you for coming tonight. We are moving on to our second public